And let's get into our press review now. We begin with the Standard newspaper and alert as ex-ICC witness against Ruto vanishes. That's the headline in today's Standard. So Mr. Burett said he was taken away from Kilifi by people who claimed to be policemen, and now his family is living in fear over his whereabouts. So police in Malindi are under pressure to establish who kidnapped or is holding on to a former witness in the case in The Hague against the DPP. But of course, it is worse for the family of the former Party of National Unity activist and farmer, Mr. Jonah Kipngetich Burett, who wants to know where he is amid fear and trepidation. As well, what exactly happened to the man. He's pictured on the front page of the Standard newspaper this Friday. Also a story that's in front there, the headline picture: foreign trips have left the Senate without its top leadership, and for the first time the Senate's leadership were out of the country for nearly a week, leaving only junior members of the Speaker's panel to preside over House affairs. So you have the Speaker Ekwe Thuru and his Deputy Kembi Gitura, Clerk Jeremiah Nyengenge, and Senior Deputy Clerk Consolata Munga are all out on foreign trips. Details are on page 4. And then there's Ababu wants ODM polls in 45 days. It's a story that you'll find more details on page 11 of the Standard newspaper. Swazuri claims Ngilu roughed up his officer, and details of that are on page 7. As we read earlier in one of those stories, that particular rift that has been witnessed between the Cabinet Secretary Lands Charity Ngilu and the NLC Chair Mohamed Swazuri has in fact caught the eye of the President. They're expected in State House today. It's a subject we've seen play out in news stories, delaying and affecting service provision and delivery in the land sector. So read about that as well. On page 3 in the Standard this Friday, concern as 13 girls drop out of school due to pregnancies. And this is an unfortunate development here, where officials blame border operators and fishermen for luring pupils and warn against cover-up. So you have 13 girls are alleged to have dropped out of school due to pregnancies in Bondo constituency, Siaya County. That's just in just one constituency this has happened. And there's also a story here where 4 held over attempt to con octogenarian as well. Remember the story that was in the headline of the Standard yesterday? Ruto's aide's vehicle was found in City Estate. There was that kidnap, or rather a carjacking of the spokesman of the DPP. His car was found yesterday, and it was found with all the front wheels having been deflated. Lecturers to earn more packs in New Paydale. So you have a return to work formula has been arrived at after a 7-day strike that paralyzed learning, and it's going to be happy lecturers getting some more to take home. The professors in public universities will now earn a basic salary of 211,753 shillings, in line with the new salary deal signed by the University Staff Union and their employer as well. Also on that page, Gideon Moi vows to push for favorable laws that touch on the natural resources. He'll ensure that they're crafted and benefit the locals where the resources are found. On page 8 in the Standard today, how Fault Coast terror attack was to be executed. Those details about what could have been, thank God it wasn't the case. So police there targeted Moi International Airport. It could have been slated for March the 16th. That would have been the day that that would have been executed. So the insurance policy for the bomb-laden car discovered in Mombasa last week was supposed to expire on the 16th, and perhaps those are some of the clues they are using to be able to come up with a timeline of when exactly the execution of that terror attack could have happened, but those bombs were detonated. We saw that report by Ferdinand Omondi in Kilifi yesterday. And page 955, top officers moved in shake-up, and that is in the police service. What's shocking about this movement in the service of the National Police Service Commission, under which mandate such transfers lies, is unaware of the changes. So it will be interesting to see what sentiments will come from the Kavuludi-led team and what his thoughts will be on the changes that, in fact, he apparently has not his team was not consulted on. So we want to hear what they'll have to say about the same. Then there's the Oscar Superstars World, covered on page 10. Lupita to star in Star Wars and episode 7. So she continues to shine bright, her star does. And even before she was crowned Oscar winner for Best Supporting Actress, she had already met this movie's director. So it's not a discussion or conversation that's happening after the fact that she won the Oscar. It is in fact before even that win did in fact take place. It's the making of the star. You can read more about how she became and ended up top of the league in that industry. Also, Scientology is popular among Hollywood celebrities is on another story that has been covered on Oscar Superstition. And a few yards from the Hollywood Guinness Museum of World Records, a rather unusual group of suave men and women in red blazers, snow white shirts and ties to match are conducting what looks like some random blood donation. Some of the stories you read about inside the Standard today. Back page, all your sporting action, which we will leave to Joshua Kemboy in a short while. He'll be joining us in studio to also look into the weekend and what we can expect to see. But the extra pullout is also inside the Standard for you today. The Big Bang, that's the headline. New evidence of how the universe evolved. How did all this come to being? All those theories are in the extra pullout. Also inside, the dramatic picture story. And there's HIV updates key to fighting the disease. The world trends is on the trend of the Twitter verse. When I was 16 is what's trending inside the extra. Let's cross now to the Daily Nation, which this Friday leads with outrage as members of parliament vote to protect polygamy. We saw that debate and how passionately the men spoke and contributed in suggesting or in maintaining very firmly how important it is for a man to in fact feel free to marry a second, third, fourth, fifth if they so wish without consulting or getting permission from the first wife. So anytime a man comes home with a woman, that would be assumed to be a second or a third wife. And as customary law, women or wives you have married do not need to be told when you're coming home with a second or third wife. I'm just trying to imagine a situation where somebody, anyway, Samuel Chepkonga made that contribution in Parliament yesterday. The headline picture in the Daily Nation: Namwamba team rejects agreement brokered by Raila. And what was agreed on leadership, Namwamba and Zani were to sit in the caretaker committee with equal representation for their respective groups. Remember, there was team Namwamba, team Zani as well. And as far as the party elections were concerned and seeking that top leadership in ODM, and the caretaker committee was to plan and organize the next round of elections and find ways to raise money for the National Delegates Conference and other issues that you can read about inside the Daily Nation today. That is on fresh crisis as ODM power sharing deal collapses. So that does not seem to be working. Remember, former Prime Minister, party leader Raila Odinga is out of the country for about a month or so. This, of course, as this uncertainty looms in his party. War on terror is covered on page 2 and 3. Explosives detonated after that court order as hunt for truck owners continue. And there's also a hunt that's ongoing for 2 other trucks that are believed to still be out there. Kavuludi opposes police transfers. We mentioned that story in the Standard. It's also covered for you in the Daily Nation. And there's a new law allowing polygamy that was passed yesterday. Details are on page 6. And on page 7, gang kills house help in children's presence. Shocking report here. where 2 children aged 4 and 2 remained locked in their house for about 2 hours with the body of their house help. I mean, how sad can that be? The caretaker, Ms. Celestine Juma, 17, had been brutally murdered by gangsters. And you can read more about that horrific story there. Orders on media laws against minister extended is another one covered on page 9. Back page, lecturer strike has been called off after talks which will see the lecturers take home a little bit more. And there's a picture there. First Lady has been in Eldoret training for that London Marathon. She's keeping fit, and there's a picture on the back page of the Daily Nation. First Lady Margaret Kenyatta and other athletes, they're warming up in Tambach on the Cabernet Iten Road before the start of a training session. She's preparing for the London Marathon. That's going to be quite interesting to see, but definitely she's putting in the work to ensure she gets to the finish line. The Star newspaper this Friday. Why Ntimama failed to ditch ODM. There was that meet that was supposed to happen to declare his ditching ODM for TNA, which was to be attended by the president, did not take place. Details are on page 6. Nairobi County launches garbage trucks. Welcome news for Nairobi residents with all the garbage we see around. Let's hope this will actually work effectively to bring about some cleanliness in Nairobi. And the governor, of course, there flagging off those trucks. Kavuludi disowns Kimayo reshuffle, also covered in the Star. Bomb terror suspects linked to Westgate as well. And page 3 in the Star, Munya takes election case to Supreme Court, and that is Meru Governor Peter Munya yesterday moved to the Supreme Court, and what he's seeking is to block his removal from office. Details are there for you. And read about that story on the Kavuludi disowning Kimayo reshuffle. It's covered on page 6, and why Ntimama, why that flop, that flopped the move from ODM to TNA. The president did not, in fact, attend, and more sporting action. And finally, the People newspaper. A bubble kicks off. Fresh storm ODM over the poll. So he's demanding that the polls be held in 45 days. So the faction of youthful politicians challenges Orange Party Old Guard to call for second rounds of election within 45 days or face unspecified action as they demand to be led to conduct campaigns for 2 candidates in coming by-elections. And also highlights some of the transfer of corps that starred new row between Kavuludi and Kimayo. William Saia has now become new director of Small Arms Unit. Samuel Kimaru moved to police headquarters. He was the traffic commandant, and Charlton Murithi is the new traffic commandant. Also in the People, marriage bill is covered for you. Bombs detonated, a story we've talked about this morning. All of that and so much more. Some of the stories in the dailies today. Do grab yourself a copy of the Standard newspaper.